get mad at women for being gold diggers. And I'm just like, that's the stupidest thing in the world.
Well, that's like what we were designed for. Like, these people, they always contradict themselves with their logic. Like, they want women to be a stay-at-home mom or whatever. But in order to do that, you got to have somebody who at least can bring in enough money to make that possible. You know, like, I feel like women don't really care about, like, I don't really care about looks so much. You're just looking more for somebody who's competent. You feel like, okay, you're somebody I can actually trust. Like, you've got it together. You can lead the family. And then somebody who has the ability to work or will work. It's not really so much the money, it's the ability, will you go out and work? So I think throwing women under the bus for that is kind of stupid, because it's ultimately like biology forcing them to choose somebody based on, we think this person can allow me to stay at home and raise kids.
There's provisioning, protection, and parental investment, and then there's just naked opportunism. Okay, so I mean, I think that we need to like point out the fact that there's a difference between wanting to have a good long-term security partner who can pay the bills and has got your back and is on the, and for both partners, right, both husband and wife, whatever it is. But the thing is like when we're talking about like the one thing I really hate is we don't make the distinction between, like, say, a woman who's a gold digger and a woman who's just simply watching out for, like, she's just being prudent.
Standards.
Right? She's just being, and I can understand that. I can understand the frustration that some people, like even Tim Pool, simply doesn't know this. He's straw manning a red pill argument that, oh, all these guys want women who aren't gold diggers, but like that's just like, we think that it's one or the other. It's a binary extreme. There's only gold diggers and there's only doormats, easy chicks.
Go ahead.
Listen, outside of like a transactional relationship where like those terms have been exclusively talked about, if you're talking about a relationship where both people feel there's an emotional like, you have to have that emotional connection. It doesn't matter how much money he has or what he looks like or what you look like. Listen, I work in strip clubs. I've seen really rich guys pull some really pretty girls. I've seen some really ugly girls make a lot of money because they have a mouthpiece on them and they're fun and they're cool. And guess what? It doesn't matter the money aspect of it as much. If you don't have that emotional connection, it's not working out long term. Like, you're not making it past 2 years. So this argument's almost mute in that sense.
Okay, so here's the issue. Scott Galloway, he does this one interview, and I really love it, where he talks about there's like a bottom third of men that women are not interested in mating with because they're broke. Now, I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about wealth. We're talking about the other end of the scale. There's a group of men, like, nobody wants to mate with broke men for whatever reason. I mean, we know what the reason is. And then also there's several studies that have shown that women are about 200% more interested in a man's ability to procure resources than the other way around. Meaning, as a man, if I'm doing well financially and my girlfriend is completely broke, then it doesn't bother me whatsoever. But the opposite generally isn't true up to a point. Like, a man needs to make at least something. So, like, I'll give you an example. Women in general don't want a man to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but they want a man who's more muscular than average. And women in general don't need a man to make $1 million a year, but they want a man who makes more money than average. Average being $59,000 a year. That's what the average man in the United States makes. And they don't need a man who is incredibly tall, but they generally want a man who's 2 inches taller than them. And the average man in the United States is 5'9". When you explain to women that the average man in the United States makes $59,000 a year and is 5'9", they're like, huh? Wait, what? What? That doesn't sound like reasonable, but that is generally what goes on. And there's a large group of men that nobody wants to date, a large group of men that nobody wants to be with. And so I think that's more towards the part of what they're talking about. If I had a daughter, if you want to fix this, you want to win this argument very easily, all you have to do is ask not somebody about themselves, but ask about their children. If I had a daughter, so you ask women, if you had a son, would you want your son dating a guy with a 900 body count? And you ask if you're a man and you have a daughter, would you want your daughter dating a man who's completely broke? And you'll get the correct answer if you ask about your offspring in those type of situations.
Oh, for sure. Well, I've definitely like used that line on people before, like if they're like being fucking weird. Like, I don't want to like go into specifics, but like, I don't know, like if I've just ever been around shitty people, I'm like, if you did this to blah, 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 how would you feel? And normally their tune definitely changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it puts it into perspective for them, you know.
I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into all this too, because like I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because I understand that up to a point, money is very important, like resources, provisioning, protection, all that good stuff, all the beta buck side of the hypergamy equation. very important for long-term boyfriend, girlfriend commitment kind of thing. But that's not to say that women won't fuck a guy who's broke, a guy who looks good and is in no way going to, they would, for a one-night stand, for a same-night lay, for a short-term sexual. Because I will tell you right now, when I was in my 20s, man, that was most, I had shit. I had a pickup truck, I had my amps, and I had like 2 nickels to rub together. Got more pussy than I had at any other time in my life, because I didn't have to worry about whether or not, you know, my apartment was nice enough and I didn't go to fucking Bed Bath & Beyond to make the sheets, you know, match with the fucking curtains and shit like that. None of that mattered. But the thing is I wasn't having relationships with those women. Yeah. It wasn't going to be a long-term thing. I was just I was a character that they wanted at that time, and they wanted to have a good sexual experience.
It's just fun.
And then there was no long-term relationship. It was just that short-term sex.
Yeah.
I feel like you could apply that discrepancy to, would you date girls that are ugly versus sleep with them?
Oh yeah, there's a difference between like who you would fuck and then like who you want to fuck. Those are like two completely
different. There's a study, again, it's I joke with it's the beer goggle study that goes over men and women in long-term and short-term situations, and we basically talk about the closing at the end of the night, the closing time argument. And basically they ask women, if you had a short-term encounter with a man, the women actually say, I want a guy who's actually taller than my partner. I want a guy who's better looking than my partner. Their standards for intelligence actually stays the same in short-term versus long-term. With men, in long-term, men wanted an attractive woman who's very empathetic and very sweet. In short term, men were like embarrassingly low. They didn't care if a woman had any intelligence whatsoever. She could be far, far less attractive, because in short term, like once you get closer and closer to closing time, men's standards would just start to plummet. Women's standards would actually go up.
Let's just say it's not the best you can do, it's the best you can do that night. Hey.
It's not Mrs. Right, it's Mrs. Right now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's probably guys who are watching this show, right? Maybe even women who like see guys with like this guy who's just a fucking loser, and he's with this really hot piece of ass, right? And you go, what the fuck does she see in this guy, right?
I'm sitting right here, bro.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I don't talk.
Why are you saying this in front of them too?
Yeah, exactly. But why would she go out with this guy, right? Well, there's got to be some mediating factor. Now, you know, the guy's broke, but she still keeps coming back to him, probably because he's laying down the good dick.
Have you ever heard the saying of like scrubs give the best dick because they have nothing else to offer?
Dude, Amanda Nicole came on my
like you need rent.
Amanda Nicole came on my show one time. She goes, ladies don't get digmatized. It's like the more felon and broke they are, the more they fuck you like your rent depends on
Oh God, they'll eat your fucking pussy for hours. But a man who's like got shit to do, he's like, you got 20 minutes, girl. Get it? Fucking come or I'm out.
They're like, I have no place to sleep. And I'm gonna say
Are you tired of meeting women at the bar and you're looking for a genuine way to meet high quality women? Click the link in the description and I'll send you my high status networking playbook so you can start dating high quality women today.